Good evening, and welcome to the City of Norwich Council meeting for March 20th, 2017. Those of you who can, would you please stand, and Alderman Martin will lead us in prayer.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all of our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of our community. Amen.
Amen. Alderwoman Philbrick, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Citizen comment, General.
This is where is your opportunity to speak on anything pertaining to the city. Please remember to speak directly into the microphone and state your name, address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Non-agenda items. We'll have another public comment during section 4 of the agenda. I've had a few people sign up. Lottie Scott.
I'm Lottie B. Scott. Tonight I come to express my
Your address, please, Ms.
My address, 85 Church Street, Norwich. I come tonight to express my great concerns about the safety of our city. For years I have been watching the speeding pattern on West Main Street grow from one car running a red light to 5 or 6 cars speeding through a red light. This pattern of running through red lights have been increasing in other parts of the city, including our downtown walkways, crossways. Now drivers are harassing other drivers. On Washington Street, a car rode my bumper. If I had to stop abruptly, there would have been a collision. Finally, I was able to change lane. The driver proceeded to harass the next driver. I slowed to allow the victim to change lane. The aggressive driver gunned his car and sped through a red traffic light. This is not one isolated incident, but it is becoming a pattern in our city. Most frightening, I was halfway into the downtown Union Street crosswalk when a car came speeding down Union. I had to move quickly to avoid being struck by the car. It was a close call. The safety of our citizens really are at risk here. Police officers cannot be everywhere, but there need to be, the safety issue need to be addressed. I'm also requesting the City of Norwich stop spending taxpayer money on providing services that will aid, abet, and promote racial segregation and discrimination in our city. Our city residents include a diverse population by race, color, ancestry, religion, and immigrants population, and more. For the several years, the city has provided support for Rock the Docks, which has welcomed and encouraged an all-white audience by their selection of entertainment. To the best of my knowledge, Rock the Dock has only hired white bands. Therefore, I'm requesting the city to stop participating in such a racist act and to stop providing any services, paid or otherwise, to Rock the Docks or any other entities which may engage in such what I call discriminatory practices.
Thank you, ma'am. Sheila Hayes.
Good evening, Sheila Hayes, 288 Central Avenue. I'm approaching you to have a request of both the Norwich Public Board of Education and the City of Norwich that you provide printed copies for the public of the entire approved Board of Education 2017-2018 budget and the entire city manager's proposed budget for 2017-2018 prior to the department budget hearings beginning on Tuesday, April 4th of 2017. Yes, I do believe the city has been providing the full printed budget, and yes, there is a cost to it, and that's not an issue. The Board of Education at one time used to provide a full, entire printed budget. Now they give a budget summary. I don't believe that is sufficient to those of us who review the budget in its entirety, and I believe it should be printed for those who are not capable or don't have the ability to print off the full proposed, their full approved budget at their upcoming budget Board of Education meeting. I thank you.
Thank you. Marvin Cerruto?
Marvin Cerruto, 100 Star Street, Norwich, Connecticut, United States of America. I have brought in a photo of the Heritage Trail, one of our many scenic routes here in Norwich, for our Good Things Jar. I've also brought in a donation monthly for our fireworks fund. I understand there should be some good news coming forth. I'll speak with some people after the meeting. And also, just an answer to a request from last meeting that, yes, I'll speak for myself. Whenever there's a building or any part of our heritage here in Norwich that we'd like to see preserved and promote towards some prosperity, I'd be 100% in favor of that and be willing to step up to the plate and join in any campaign. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Linda Bertelson?
I'm Linda Bertelson. I live at 24 Manwaring Road, and I want to speak to you about the Ethics Commission findings. I agree that everyone did violate our ethics code, but I don't agree with the recommendations that were made. I do agree that getting a quarter of the money back is appropriate, but I look at it entirely differently. We're actually owed $85,582.50, which is a 1/4 of the total trip. So if you apply that here, each one should pay back 100% of what it costs for them and their guests to go on the trip, minus the $50. This would be a total of $85,032.53. I arrived at that number multiplying $7,730.23 times 11 people. I think this would be quite fair because it is less than 1/4 of the total amount spent on the trip. I also think that Ms. Boyclair and Mr. Groner should step down from the NPU Board of Commissioners voluntarily, and if they won't, I think there can be a case made that they should be disqualified based on our charter. Chapter 12, Utilities, Section 2, the Board of Utilities Commissioners, Section 3, members of the board. It says, no person who holds any other public office or who is an employee of the city government or who has any business relationship with the Department of Public Utilities other than as a consumer shall be eligible to be a commissioner. Any commissioner who ceases to possess any of the qualifications enumerated shall forthwith forfeit this office. The important statement in this section is who has any business relationship with the DPU other than as a consumer. I think now that CMEC no longer just sells electricity to its members, that our charter does not allow for utility board members to serve on CMEC's board. They are in a business relationship with MPU and other utilities and companies out of state. This needs to be addressed. I think that all of the utility commissioner members should be replaced when their time is up because they have done nothing to fix this problem, even though they've known about it since May of 2016. I also believe Mr. Bilda and Mr. Cinco should be fired from MPU for their part in this, and I know the council cannot do this, but I know they can't do most of this, but I will be bringing this to the MPU board meeting next week. I also believe we need a charter revision to allow our city leaders more power to remove any board member for ethics violations, which is something we don't have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That's the end of people who signed up. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Yes, ma'am. And these are again on non-agenda items.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Offner-Seals. I live at 103 Sherwood Lane, and I am speaking tonight on behalf of the Norwich Area Clergy Association. On March 1st, 2017, residents of the City of Norwich gathered outside of City Hall to show our support for immigrants and refugees in our community, and to advocate for a city in which all residents can feel welcome and safe. Many of our city leaders participated in the event, including Mayor Hinchy, Police Chief Patrick Daly, State Senator Kathy Austin, President of the Norwich branch of the NAACP Diane Daniels, and NFA Diversity Director Leo Butler. Also in attendance were clergy from many of our diverse faith communities. As part of that gathering, we encouraged members of the Norwich community to offer their own suggestions and comments on how we can build a safer, more united community for all residents. Members wrote those suggestions down on index cards, which have been compiled, and we would like to offer those suggestions to you tonight. Residents of this community would like to suggest that we work together on the following items: advocacy for greater diversity in our city government so that our city leadership better reflects the diversity of our community, advocacy for the hiring of more people of color to the Norwich Police Department, to learn as much as we can about other cultures and foster more diversity events such as the annual Celebrating Diversity Night, put up welcome signs at gateways to the community. There are actually 3 different suggestions to do this. Encourage city leaders, and including faith community leaders, to publicly take a welcoming stance towards immigrants and refugees. To work with organizations such as Start Fresh and New London and the Norwich Welcome Group here in our city to bring more refugee families to Norwich. To speak up for those without a voice and to give marginalized voices a place at the table and opportunities to speak out. To listen to the stories and experiences of those different than ourselves. And to attend city council meetings. As a representative of the Norwich Clergy Association, I would like to urge you, as members of the Norwich City Council, to make this issue a priority in the coming year. We cannot stand by and do nothing when so many citizens of this country are experiencing hate crimes or hate speech. Let us take pride in and celebrate our diversity rather than allowing it to divide us. And let us make Norwich a more positive environment for all of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Rodney Boyd, 62 Roosevelt Avenue. One of our previous speakers covered CMEC very, very well. I can't do better. I suggest that CMEC give us the money back to the public utility, and I suggest that public utility cut a check to the city of Norwich for that full amount. The person that runs CMEC should be fired. If he was a captain of a Navy ship, he would have been walked off the ship in a heartbeat. Now, last city council meeting, we talked about a water tank. You folks voted to spend some money on a water tank. I think you missed one of the key words in that presentation that these people had. They don't use it. They don't need it. They aren't using it right now. What are we going to spend millions of dollars for a water tank that we don't even use? Now, we have a water tank over on Laurel Hill that's right at the top of the hill for a new development down where the state hospital used to be. Now, we don't know what the water concerns are going to be as far as the new developments down there. I've suggested on more than one occasion that the Water Authority for Southeastern Connecticut grab that tank. But they really aren't in the mood to grab the tank because of the expense. but we already own it, as far as I know. Now, the next thing will come if we have a development down there, if we have a development down there. Need for water. Are we going to spend $6 or $8 million for another water tank? We already got one there. One of the big expenses is siting a water tank. I've been on your water authority now for about 25 years. I'm representative of the Southeastern Water Authority.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on non-agenda items? Anyone else wishing to speak on non-agenda items? Anyone else wishing to speak on non-agenda items? Hearing none, citizen comment on general items is closed. Thank you all very much.
Letter of resignation from Homer Caldecott from the Harbor Management Commission.
Is there a motion and a second, please? Alderman Martin, Alderman Gould. This is Homer Caldecott, and we wish to thank Mr. Caldecott for all of his service. Those in favor? That's unanimous. By the way, Mr. Nash is on his way, I believe. He's late from work.
Letter of resignation from Lisa Harrison from the Commission for Persons with Disabilities.
A motion and a second. Alderman Philbrick, Alderman Martin. This is Lisa Harrison, who has resigned, and we wish to thank Ms. Harrison for her service. Those in favor?
I have a question.
Yes?
What is the protocol for the city when people resign from commissions? I know we do it publicly in front of the people that are here in attendance, but do we send them a formal letter of appreciation?
No, I don't know. I'd have to ask Marixa whether she sends out something.
Well, my personal opinion is I think if we don't, then we should.
Okay, I'll pass that along. Thank you.
Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting.
A motion and a second to receive this, please. Alderman Braddock, Alderman Martin. Which one did we decide to do? I'll read it for the benefit of the public. Dear Mayor Henchy, we are pleased to notify you that your comprehensive annual financial report, CAFR, for the fiscal year ended 2016 qualifies for a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. An award for the Certificate of Achievement has been awarded to the individual's department or agency designated by the government as primarily responsible for preparing the comprehensive annual financial report. This award has been sent to the submitter as designated on the application. I believe that is our very own Josh Pothier and the Finance Department. We hope, and I have done as they've asked, that you will arrange for a formal presentation of the certificate and award of financial reporting achievement, and that appropriate publicity will be given this notable achievement. We hope that your example will encourage other government officials in their efforts to achieve and maintain an appropriate standard of excellence in financial reporting. And this is signed by Todd Bukima, Acting Director, Technical Services, Government Finance Officers Association. So, congratulations, Finance. Did I get a vote? Those in favor? And that's unanimous.
City Manager's Report.
Thank you. This is the City Manager's Report for March 20th, 2017. The Mayor and I continue to have our regular meetings, usually on Monday. Chief Pat Daly, City Controller Josh Pothier, and I met with the town of Preston regarding exploring alternatives to their current resident state trooper coverage. We proposed 4 options for Preston to consider without the need to hire any new officers. I had my monthly meeting with the fire chiefs. There has been a lot of cooperation and discussion within the group in regards to prioritizing equipment upgrades. Josh Pothier and I have met with department heads and volunteer fire departments the week of March 13th to clarify any questions regarding their upcoming budgets. We also met with Abby Dolliver and Athena Nagel of Norwich Public Schools. Chief Scandariato and I held an EOC meeting, that's Emergency Operations Center meeting, on March 14th in preparation for the expected blizzard. Members of Public Works, Police, Fire Department, Norwich Public Utilities, Norwich Public Schools, Human Services, City Council, and Red Cross were in attendance. A parking ban was issued and City Hall was closed due to travel ban on highways. The EOC was established and set up at Norwich Public Utilities at 6 a.m. and started to disband at 2 p.m. when the storm abated. Finally, I have a handout of the key financial indicators for the 8 months ending February 28th. Josh Pothier has been doing this report for the 2 months ending July 31st and 8 months ended February 28th and 29th, each year to coincide with the major tax collections and storm seasons. The Treasurer's report for the quarter ending the 31st is also attached. As of Monday morning, March 20th, over 160 training sessions have been completed on the ethics course. My assistant, Jackie Barroso, is in the process of reminding those who have not taken the ethics course that they may be required to do so. And that's my report for this evening.
Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Thank you. John, status of negotiations?
Well, I'm not supposed to really talk about that other than we have one outstanding negotiation, and that is with the police department at this point. I can't give the details of it in open session.
Yes.
Sometimes I miss being on that side of the rope because I have things that I really would like to say that as an elected official sitting up here, I probably shouldn't. But this, I read a lot in the paper about this proposed arrangement with the town of Preston, and I'm a little annoyed, to put it quite frankly. I don't like reading things in the paper before I see them come before the city council, or at least a heads up. And so because you all know how candid I am, I'll just put out what I have to say. If we have enough police officers that we can afford to send some of them to Preston, perhaps we have too many police officers. And I mean that with all sincerity. I live in Norwich Town. We have one officer that patrols our area. Norwich Town, the industrial park. This is no disrespect to the police department. But this is a major consideration, and I think it needs to be fully vetted with the city council prior to any tentative agreements. And I will look forward, John, to hearing a lot more about this. You proposed 4 options. I would like to see those options at some point in time. I mean, it may be a viable thing. But the message it sends to me, if we have that many officers that we can send them to Preston, what are we taking away from in the city? Are we going to take people out of community policing? Are we going to take officers out of Greenville, Taftville, Norwich? I don't understand the logistics of how it's going to work. So I will look forward to learning more about this.
Okay. Anyone else? No? Thank you very much.
Citizen comment on resolutions.
Again, I would ask you to please I have a few people who signed up, and then we'll go to the audience at large. But I would ask you to state clearly your name and address into the microphone, to limit your comments to 3 minutes, and to limit your comments to items on the agenda. First up, we have Sheila Hayes.
Good evening again, Sheila Hayes, 288 Central Avenue. I'm speaking with respect to resolution number 10. Regarding the city clerk as the secretary for the council, be directed to open a council file, ... It's in your resolution. My question is, could you please explain why this resolution is necessary, since the city clerk, as secretary for the council, recorded into the minutes of March 6th, each individual report received from the Ethics Commission and any subsequent city council actions will be recorded into the minutes of the council and therefore become permanent records of the city council minutes. That's where I'm a bit baffled as to why we need to have a separate reporting file in the city clerk's office as the secretary for the city council. Therefore, without me really understanding the need for this resolution, I'm asking you not to support it, because I believe there's already a permanent file created by the city clerk acting as the secretary for the city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry Goldman.
Hi, good evening. Larry Goldman, 35 Sherwood Lane, talking regarding resolution number 6. Members of the City Council, let me begin by thanking you and the citizens of Norwich for allowing me to serve as NPU Commissioner. It has been an honor to look out for the interests of ratepayers and be around for exciting developments like natural gas and solar expansion. I believe that over the years I have been a strong advocate for ratepayers, and most recently I've been leading voice at NPU and for the first voice to speak out against the recently uncovered lavish retreats. That is why I was surprised to hear that the council was not planning to reappoint me to the commission, that the council believed I was not a strong enough voice on the issue in the face of their deafening silence is absurd. As an NPU commissioner, I was stonewalled at every turn when I looked for answers. Senior staff at NPU never provided detailed expense information on NPU travel, and the financial information I was furnished from CMEC had no accounting for any of these trips. If the council was so interested in finding answers and believed there was a problem, they could have immediately demanded answers from NPU and removed any commissioners who had gone on these trips. However, you did not. Meanwhile, the press uncovered worse and worse details about how bad the problem was. Until this date, you have still not taken any official actions on this problem. And the one official action you have chosen to take in a partisan attack is to remove the commissioner that brought all of these issues to light. Is it just a coincidence this happens to happen right as the Councilman Nystrom gears up for a run for mayor? This is the same Councilman Nystrom who was mayor during the first of these retreats and claims he knew nothing about them. I find it particularly offensive that the councilman finally spoke on this matter after he was called out in the paper for being soft on it. If that is the sort of leadership he believes the people of Norwich are looking for, perhaps he should fold his campaign right now. I'm also astonished to find Councilwoman Gould taking issue with my performance. As the council's representative at NCDC, she recently discovered that there was no lease in place for a space NCDC had invested lots of capital into. She, of all people, should understand that if a problem was hidden from you, there is little you can do until you have all the facts. Now more than ever, the public is looking for both parties to work together to make government better. I put partisan politics aside and, along with Steve Becker, another commissioner, tried to work with Mr. Nystrom to help make sure all the issues at NPU were resolved and we restored trust in NPU's management. However, Mr. Nystrom declined to take any action. I care about this city, And though you have chosen to remove me from the commission, I will continue to fight for its residents and make
Thank
sure
you,
this
sir.
government and its elected officials
Thank you,
are in the
sir.
public's trust. Thank you.
Alana Sherman.
65 Cedar Street, Norwich, Connecticut. I'm testifying in regard to Resolution Number 6, relative to an appointment to the Board of Public Utilities Commissioners and the Sewer Authority. I'm aware that a need for partisan balance on the board may be an issue in the resolution to replace current Commissioner Larry Goldman, but I am also aware, via recent news reports, of a level of rancor directed toward Mr. Goldman that, from my point of view, verges on persecution. According to a recent article in the Bulletin, one member of the council feels aggrieved by Mr. Goldman's quote-unquote aggressive questioning regarding utility matters. Other council members believe that Mr. Goldman should have brought his concerns to council, even though, because of obstruction by the utility and some board members, he had no substantive facts to report. In truth, the record seems to show that, in service to the public interest, Mr. Goldman made every effort to obtain information about utility policies, practices, and expenditures, and his reward to be condemned for supposedly doing too much and castigated for supposedly doing too little. I hope you will either withdraw or vote down this resolution. In a time of especially low public confidence in local government, partisan considerations and private unsupportable grievances should play no role in the appointment process. Mr. Goldman has a long record of supporting clean government, especially in areas where entrenchment and favoritism flourish. Let him continue to do so as a utility board member. Thank you.
Thank you. Rodney Bowie.
Good evening, Rodney Bowie, 62 Roosevelt Avenue. On the appointment of another person to the Public Utilities Commission, there's more than one person on that particular board. I think a concerted effort on their parts of all the commissioners could bring this thing to a head. This is also part of the Sewer Authority. The Sewer Authority's been collecting funds for years and years and years. Take a look at your bill for sewer improvement, millions of dollars. And yet there's no improvements to be made. We aren't building another sewer plant or anything else, but we're still collecting funds for this particular thing. This appointment is a professional responsibility. Mr. Goldman, I think, has been a professional person right along. I'm not faulting him at all. But someone has to step up and be assertive. This is a commission. They have to run things themselves. This is a commission. They have a responsibility to remove people, to do what has to be done. Now, if they're not going to do that kind of thing, if they're not going to demand for receipts, for expenditures, for printouts of expenditures, then shame on them. But it isn't all just one person. It's a whole commission. And I think the person that's appointed to this needs to understand that they represent the people of the city of Norwich, not a club. This is not a club down there. And it's a professional responsibility. I want to stress that again. They have to act professionally. I think Mr. Goldman is a professional. But it takes a whole team to do this kind of thing. So let's get with it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on the agenda items? Yes, ma'am.
Beryl Fishbone, 19 Bliss Place. I'm speaking on Resolution Number 3, and that is the appointment as regular members to the Mohegan Park Improvement and Development Advisory Committee. On behalf of the committee, I would like to thank you, or say thank you to the Selections Committee for finding 2 more people for us who we desperately need. They're very important to being able to move things along, make decisions, and also find out what else is going on and taking on some of the responsibilities of the research that we're doing. We'd like to welcome Rebecca Malucci, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right. I haven't met her yet, so I'm not really certain, and Samantha Venturo to our committee, and we look forward to meeting with them. Our meeting site is now going to be, excuse me, at Norwich Public Works headquarters, and we've moved the time to 6:30 if anybody would like to join us. We're always welcoming anybody who would like to come and have a say in what goes on at the park, how we can improve it, how we can make it better, and how we can help this city flourish with new things. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on the agenda? Yes, sir.
Sam Browning. I don't think this is going to be...
Your address, please?
671 Scotland Road, Norwich,
Thank you.
Connecticut. I don't think my comments will make a difference, but I would like you to go back to when the story about the trips to the Kentucky Derby broke. Mr. Goldman was the only member of that 5-person commission who expressed any dismay for what was taking place, and he still to this day, to the best of my knowledge, is the only one of the 5 members on the board who did. Similarly, if you didn't want to reappoint him, there's one other person in the pool, Mr. Schlau, who's also been on the ethics board and who's made his opinion of the matter well known. Either one of them would serve as a watchdog for the citizens of Norwich. That's my personal opinion. I do not know the opinion of the person who you are in all likelihood going to appoint, but Norwich has tried to avoid the issue that we have to regulate in addition to run NPU, and there's been very few people appointed to that board who have had a regulator mindset. Larry Goldman is one of them. I urge you to reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Linda Burleson, 24 Manwaring Road, and I actually want to applaud you. I want to speak on number 6, on replacing any of the board members, because even though Mr. Goldman may have been speaking out about it, they have done absolutely nothing since the story broke in October, and it is now March. And we do need new blood on that committee. We need new people who are going to stand up and, like the gentleman who just spoke before me, who are going to regulate and control NPU, because that is their job, and so far that is not what they've been doing. They allow NPU to do whatever they want, and they say, okay, and that's not the point of NPU, because unfortunately the City Council doesn't control NPU, this board controls NPU. And no one has any control over anything, which is the whole problem with this whole Derbygate and how it all occurred. And unfortunately, that's the big issue, and the whole city is, a lot of citizens are up in arms about it, and I think a lot of citizens would be happy to see the board replaced over there because they're not doing their job. So no offense to Mr. Goldman, maybe he was trying to do his job, but I'm in approval of that, on nominating a new person to that board, and I hope you support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Brian Koblars, 16 Hobart Avenue, Norwich, also to speak on resolution number 6. It's now part of the public record where, in advance of the Derby trip, that several city officials in discussions had concerns that should word get out there, that somebody might begin questioning Well, that somebody did begin questioning. As others have pointed out, the only one to have questioned during this entire time period. They say replace other members on the board. Well, 2/5 of that board were also involved in the Derby trips. If you're going to replace anybody, you may not have power over NPU, but you do have power over the commissioners. You received reports. That should be actionable. To try to blame an individual who was intentionally stonewalled and deprived of information. Even the reporters can't get information under Freedom of Information laws. Who were the guests in years 1 and 2? Do you have that information? Think about it for a moment. You've been stonewalled too. So is the entire public. We've had one champion there, and now it's being politicized. Another Republican in there? Let's get rid of a voice that would end up potentially fighting a political battle this fall. That's totally unfair to every single person that lives in this city, to the ratepayers, to the taxpayers, and it's a slap in the face to all of them. You should be looking at the mere facts. Keep the people there that are looking out for the public interest. Otherwise, you lose everything. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak on the agenda items? Anyone else wishing to speak on agenda items? Hearing none, citizen comment is closed, and I thank you all very much for your input.
Relative to dissolving the School Facility Review Committee.
A motion and a second, please. Alderman Braddock, Alderman Nash, is there discussion? Hearing none, those in favor? It's unanimous.
Relative to reappointments to the Norwich Golf Course Authority.
A motion and a second, please. Alderman Nash, Alderwoman Gould, is there discussion? This would be for regular members, Bernard Caulfield, David D. Bautista, Michael E. Driscoll, John Paul Marine, Richard A. Padergal, Richard Strauss, Charles C. Whitty. Yes, sir?
Please, thank you. Just like to speak in favor of all of these people. They are being reappointed to the Gulf Coast Authority. And for the record, since there's been some partisan rancor spit at the council tonight, the count is 5-2 Democrat being reappointed, just for the record.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Those in favor? That's unanimous.
Relative to appointments to the Mohegan Park Improvement and Development Advisory Committee.
A motion and a second, please. Alderman Martin, forgetting your name. Alderman Gould. Is there discussion? Yes, sir?
Thank you. Again, I'd like to speak in favor of both these young ladies. They appeared before the subcommittee, and they expressed a keen and strong desire in helping with Mohegan Park. And for the record, they're unaffiliated in Green Party.
And so, if you have no further discussion, their names are Rebecca Malucci and Samantha Ventura. Those in favor? That's unanimous.
Relative to appointments to the Community Center Exploration Committee.
Is there a motion and second, please? Alderman Gould, Alderman Braddock. Is there discussion? Yes, ma'am?
I was just wondering when we could receive an update on the Community Center Exploration Committee. May. Okay. Thank you.
And what was the date?
In May.
In May. And that is Jeffrey Brown and Catherine Rose. And I will follow suit. One is an unaffiliated, and Catherine Rose is a Democrat. Those in favor? And that's unanimous.
relative to reappointments of regular members to the Personnel and Pension Board.
Motion and a second, Mr. Nash and Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? These names are reappointments, is that correct?
Yes.
And it is Paul Schroeder and John A. John. Those in favor? That's unanimous.
Relative to an appointment to the Board of Utilities, Commissioners, and Sewer Authority, and the Sewer Authority, sorry.
Is there a motion and a second?
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
I wish to remove my name from co-sponsor.
okay. Do we just do that, or do we have to? Let the record indicate that Mr. Braddock has decided to take his name off this resolution. I think we still need a motion and a second.
Correct.
A motion and a second, please. Alderwoman Philbrick and Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. This gentleman, Stu Peel, came to us actually a year ago seeking appointment to this board. During those discussions, he decided to withdraw his name for consideration, and he supported the person who was reappointed at that time. He comes back to us seeking appointment. For background information, he works at Electric Boat. He is a mechanical engineer by trade or profession. He is a lead engineer currently working on the new propulsion systems for the fast attack subs that will guard our nation. He's highly educated and highly trained. He expressed during his interview his knowledge of not only the design of these systems, but how you justify their cost, the investment, the stability that it provides for the nation's defense. I think he's an outstanding person to be considered for this board. The board deals with large numbers, large expenses, and he does the same thing in his trade and his profession. So I strongly support him. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there any further discussion? Alderman Braddock?
Thank you. I feel that Mr. Goldman's not being reappointed was cast in the wrong light. He has done a fine job on the NPU board. He has spoken out. When there was something wrong, he sensed that there was something going on, he did speak out. He was not acknowledged by anyone, it was just rebuffed. And it's very unfortunate that it happened and it turned out the way that it turned out. There were 7 years of hard work that went into this commission, learning what this utility board is all about. And that 7 years of experience is now gone. And it's too bad that we are that partisan, that we can't see that experience is so important to the continuance of the Norwich Public Utility Board, so that it will still remain a prime asset in our community. Thank you.
Alderwoman Gould.
I will be supporting resolution number 6. And I thank Larry Goldman for his service to the Commission, the Public Utilities Commission. But as we discussed in the interview, your concerns that you raised over the Kentucky Derby trip, you told us that you tried to bring to the commissioners, the other commissioners who were not involved in the trip. I have been told by both commissioners that that didn't actually happen. But that being said, there were other avenues that you could have brought your concerns to. The city manager, corporate counsel, anyone on the city council. But you didn't do that. And that disappoints me. This is not partisan. This is not vendetta or any other word to put it. I'm just disappointed that you didn't take it further and we let it sort of fester out there for many months, and then the newspaper picked it up. Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderwoman Philbrick?
This is one of those situations, again, where I Wish that I was on that side of it, because this is a no-win situation. I knew about the Derby trip probably shortly after it occurred. A citizen told me about it. I don't know who, I don't even remember who it was. I immediately went to John Bilder with my concerns, and he said to me, "No big deal, don't worry about it." I trusted him. Shame on me, and shame on him for telling a fib. I saw him again at the fire scene at Foundry 66, and he made a point of tiptoeing across the fire hoses and through the fire personnel and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I just want you to know that it's out there. It's all coming out." And I said, "What's coming out?" He said, "The Derby trips." So, again, this is a very hard situation, and I apologize for bringing things back to my personal experiences, but that's how I relate to things. When I had my issue with the Ethics Commission, I was presented with a situation where I was concerned. I was conflicted because I didn't know what to do. So I sought guidance from the former city manager. And they turned that around on me and crucified me. So I can understand people's reluctance. And I'm not saying it was Mr. Goldman's reluctance or it has nothing to do with that. But the way we operate here is not conducive to open, transparent. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, which way do I go that makes me able to live with myself? I don't want to vote on this. Mr. Peel is a wonderful man. I'm sure he's talented. I'm sure he will bring an incredible amount of experience to the table. Mr. Goldman has served for 7 years. Should he have brought this forward? He said, she said. Who knows what the facts are? So again, this is one of those situations where I am saddened by a vote that I have to make tonight. I don't know. I'll go back to my same old story. If you had to do it over again, most of us would do something the other way, but we only get one bite of the apple sometimes. So we'll vote and we'll see what happens.
Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
I want to issue my thank you for Larry Goldman for serving the city of Norwich, not only on just the Utilities Commission. Larry gave me my start in Norwich boards and commissions when I served on the Ethics Review Committee. He saw a guy who was a union member, very pro-labor, and I was an independent then. I wasn't even a Republican then. I was just a regular guy, and Larry believed in me to put me on that board and commission. And we worked hard for 2 years together, and I call Larry Goldman my friend now. And this is deeply troubling for me. And I shared that with Larry today. I shared it with a few other people that contacted me. To me, it kind of sends a bad message in a way. And in other ways, we try to put the best people on the boards and commissions. We also have to listen to the public outcry about the complete gutting of the Utilities Commission because people have no trust in it anymore. And even though Mr. Goldman had nothing to do with that, I mean, he still got labeled in that manner. I can't take anything away from Mr. Peel as well either. Mr. Peel's a professional engineer, very skilled. He'll bring a whole different technical aspect to that board and commission. That being said, I believe in life when one door closes, another one opens. I believe there's a whole bunch of doors opening for you right now, Larry, and you just don't know it yet. So I wish you all the best in all your future endeavors, and I thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart for giving me a chance to serve the city and to be where I am today. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'll throw my 2 cents in. I thank Mr. Goldman for his service the last 7 years. I know that's no consolation of what's happening here tonight. I want to let everyone know that as I sit up here, I'm probably the single worst Republican in the city, because if you look at my record, I don't always go with my fellow councilmen and women when it goes to voting. But I will say this. The only phone calls I've received for this whole thing have been 3. So I hear this outrage that's going on in the city, and I got 3 phone calls. So much for the outrage. I shop in Norwich. I see citizens in Norwich every single day, and the only conversation I've had with anybody was yesterday in the parking lot of Stop and Shop when someone said, "Hey, Nash, it's good to see you guys changing things." If I had it my way, and maybe city council, corporate council can explain it to us, I'd say let them all go and appoint all new people. Because anyone that's been there for 7 years and 3 or 4 trips later didn't know anything was going on, I'm bewildered. I've sat up here for 8, and I didn't know the trips were going on. So I can understand how he maybe didn't. But I listen, I don't know what to say. All I can say is that 3 phone calls I got were, get them all out, put new people in. That's where I'm at tonight. It's got nothing to do with Democrat, Republican, Green Party, unaffiliated. It's got nothing to do with it. There's a huge, huge loss of trust right now with NPU. And it does not reflect on the employees of NPU, because they're the finest we can hire, the finest the city has. It's got nothing to do with them. But the administration and the commission have lost trust in the citizens of Norwich. They've lost my trust, for whatever that's worth. So that's why I'm here tonight, and that's why I'll be supporting this resolution.
Anyone else? Hearing no further conversation, those in favor of appointing Seward Peel? 5. Those opposed?
Abstain.
1. Measure carries.
Relative to reappointment of regular and alternate members to the Commission on City Plan.
Is there a motion and a second, please? President Pro Tem and Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Yes, sir?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to speak in favor of the resolution. If I may, Mayor, Frank Manfredi and Art Sharon have served on the commission for a number of years, and they do a very fine job, and the city is better for their service. And the other 2 people, Danielle Daneska, Jason Arnett, they're being appointed as alternates, and I think we should all support this. Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none, those in favor? And that's unanimous.
Relative to the Tassau Volunteer Fire Department to be allowed to sell beer for the annual State Connecticut Firefighters Association Convention.
A motion and a second, please. Alderwoman Gould, Alderman Braddock. Is there discussion? Is the date? Yes. This is a huge deal for the city. I have spoken with Greg Schlau many times about this. And Alderwoman Gould, I think you can say how many fire companies, volunteer fire companies will be?
Right now, I believe that there are 38.
38. And there will be a parade, there'll be ceremonies. The public is most welcome. So please put September 17th in your date books. All those in, was there anything further? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Relative to reallocations and repurposing of capital improvement project funds.
Is there a motion and a second, please? Alderman Nash, Alderman Braddock. Is there discussion? Would you like to hear from Mr. Pothier about this?
Please.
Mr. Pothier? Or Tony, whoever?
Good evening, Tony Madera, Deputy Controller, City of Norwich. You've seen some of these in the past before. This one's a little different. I'll kind of start at the number 3 on the bottom part. One of the big things that happened The state Christmas present to the city of Norwich was a cut of about $323,000 for road improvement projects, basically paving roads. So we started looking for monies to move, to transfer in to cover those expenses because we deemed that very important. So we went through the process of reallocating some items that are here in front of you this evening. The items that are in the top part are basically all projects that are under budget. So we're reallocating those to cover that basically for some smaller projects and eventually road improvements. With a couple of exceptions, Unit Street drainage was deemed that they were looking at the process Public Works was and deemed that they didn't need to do an upgrade of the pipes that was there that they anticipated doing. So they'd like to reallocate that towards some other projects in the bottom. Let's see, the last one, probably some smaller ones. The fire equipment, there was some items there that were also under budget, and we'd like to allocate that to the emergency management building. That building had some water damage. There was some leaks in the roof. They're still evaluating the situation there, but we need some money to correct that problem. Hopefully that will be sufficient. The other items that are there, kind of some minor overages on some different things, some vehicles that came in slightly over budget. They're going to look to put some more money into taking out of Yantic drainage and just using it for some generic drainage projects that they have. And then the technology infrastructure improvements is basically for Public Works. What we're trying to do with that is to automate some processes so that we can do stuff like pavilion rentals, trash cans, if they have to be replaced, eviction notices, and some other items, and to move some of those items to an online environment for them so that that can be done 24/7. And that's then the last big item is the land closure fund. This fund was basically capping the landfill closures, and we had to put money aside for it a number of years ago. That time expired about 3 years, and since then we've made every effort to get that money. It was basically sitting in a retainage account back from the state of Connecticut, and we finally got that money back. So that's there. We'd like to move that towards paving the roads, to close that out and do that with it. So that's the laundry list. If there's any specific questions, I'll try to answer them.
Anybody have any questions? Yes, sir? Ma'am? Got confused.
Well, I'm 74, and I've never questioned who I am, so...
Then you can keep us oriented, thank you.
What is the TVD building?
Taftville Fire Department.
Oh, I'm sorry. Taftville Volunteer Fire Department.
Okay.
Sorry.
And the $70,000 for the Yantic Street drainage improvements, we will not see that coming forward in another reincarnation?
I'm not on the Public Works and Capital Improvement Committee, so I can't say that definitively, but these recommendations, we worked with the city manager, we worked with the Public Works director, and all of these items that are here, we vetted with those departments and discussed with them, and you know, the projects were basically closed out or moved on to something else.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hearing no further discussion, those in favor? Aye. And that's unanimous.
Relative to the city clerk's office, keeping a permanent record of individual ethic violation findings.
Is there a motion and a second, please? President Pro Tem and seconded by Alderman Braddock. Is there discussion? Yes, sir?
Thank you.
Somebody.
The Ethics Commission has produced a 3-page report, which we have received in the council level. We have received it, and we have passed it on to the public utilities. These are all recorded facts. They're in the minutes of the Ethics Commission. They're in our minutes of the Norwich City Council. I don't really see a need to create a file and store it away in the city clerk's office. It's all recorded. All the facts are there. If someone wants to retrieve it, they can retrieve it. I see no reason to create another file for this debacle. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to offer a substitute language, a resolution that is, which would then become the resolution that we vote on. Copies were handed out to members of council and city clerk. So I'd like to move a substitute, please.
When would be the proper time for question?
Well, it has to have a second.
I don't have a copy.
Put it on your desk. Oh, here's. You got it? Okay.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay.
Thank you. May I?
Yes, please do.
The purpose or explanation for the substitute, the language of this resolution incorporates the original Resolution 10. And if you refer to the language, it says that the city clerk's office does not currently maintain a file for individuals in their office that have, in fact, been found in violation of ethical codes by the city of Norwich. And that was, in fact, requested by the Ethics Commission. That's why this resolution is here, the original resolution. The second part of the resolution that is in front of us now refers to the level of restitution that the Ethics Commission sought. They sought a 25% level of restitution. And I can't explain why they did that other than I was told it was based on the 25% ownership of CMAQ by NPU. And while there may be some rationale for reducing the level of restitution, I think it's pretty apparent that the public expects and hopes for full restitution by individuals involved in these trips. And the second part, last part of this substitute resolution, in fact, says that the council goes on record recommending that each individual whom an ethical violation was found repay the full cost per person for their trip to Kentucky. And that is its purpose, the second portion. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Alderwoman Philbrook?
I'm a little confused. I had a conversation with Mr. Nystrom regarding resolution number 10, and consequently that's why my name is on here. This I have no knowledge of. I found out about it when I got here this evening. This causes me great distress. If you wanted me to support this, Peter, why didn't you want me to support this? I don't need to see my name on a piece of paper, but I do not have to have the information and the knowledge prior to making a decision. So when this is all done, I would like to make another motion. Make another motion. So
Okay,
I'm not
we're
quite sure how to
having
do
a
that.
discussion on the motion that President Pro Tem Nystrom has made. Is there further discussion? Could we let other people speak,
Oh,
please?
certainly. I didn't see the hands.
Yes.
The new Resolution 10 or 10A, whatever the number's going to be, I think we should allow the public to have some comment on that before we vote on it as a council.
Excuse me, Corporation Counsel would like to say something.
Let me raise a question now with the council. The charter provides that when you're voting on a motion, it requires 4 votes for something to pass. The rules that the council has adopted basically provide that at a meeting of this sort, when you are introducing a new resolution, it takes a two-thirds vote of all those present in voting. So if you amend a resolution by adding language to it, you're taking a four-person vote. If you're substituting a new resolution, bringing a resolution in as an inclusion of a new resolution rather than amending the existing language, you're going to need a two-thirds vote, which would be 5 in this particular instance of those that are present here. So I don't know what the procedure you're following right now. It's sort of, the resolution is surfaced, but I think you should make it clear whether you're amending the existing resolution, in which case you'd add 2 paragraphs to the existing resolution. If you're bringing a new resolution in, then the voting is different, and whether, I think at this stage it may be late to have public speaking, but at least it's a different number that's required in order to adopt it.
What is your pleasure?
May I? I'd like to address the Corporation Council. When this was called in, Michael, I asked that the language be added for this first Resolution 10. Your office came up with the substitute language for the complete document.
Today, yes.
I did not ask you to do that. I did not ask you to do that. I asked you to add the amendment to it. If the form in front of us now requires two-thirds of a vote.
No, if it's an amendment, you're just adding the paragraphs, I think paragraph 1, 2, and 4 with the existing ones, 3 and 5 are the ones of the amendment. So if that language is amended, then I think you're using an amendment. If you wish to insert this as a new resolution entirely, then make it just simply a question that you need 5 votes then. So if the motion is to amend the existing paragraph by adding the third whereas and the paragraph that says it be it further resolved, then it requires a 4-person vote to do that.
I believe you're instructing me to reword the original motion on this.
Yeah, that's what this is. But
I use the word substitute because it's something that I did often in Hartford.
well,
My purpose is to amend the original one, if that's clarity you need for the record.
That would be for the record. I think that's the clarity that's needed. If the intention is to amend it, to add
It is simply to amend the other language, yes.
So now, what do we do about the second?
If the second is agreeable to that.
Is the
So you're
second agreeable?
You're going to amend Resolution 10 to include basically the 100% reimbursement? Okay, then I would withdraw, but I have a subsequent.
Well, let's clear up this. So you've withdrawn your second. Is there another second on the table? Hearing none, the motion fails. Now what do we do? Now, Alderwoman Philbrick, you have something?
Well, now I'm totally confused. What are we voting on, if anything?
Right now, we have a resolution, as stated, resolution number 10. Mr. Nystrom wanted to put in other language to adapt, to change, add an addition to it. You withdrew your second. No one else on the council seconded it, so that motion died. Now, so what we have right now is resolution number 10, correct?
Correct.
As presented?
As presented.
Okay. So I withdrew my...
You withdrew your second. The motion died. So now we have discussion on resolution number 10. Hearing no discussion, you would like to discuss?
I'm still confused. So why can we not amend Resolution 10 to add the paragraph of the 100%?
Because you just withdrew your second.
I withdrew my second to remove my name. I'm confused.
Okay.
Let me just say how I feel.
Okay.
I am in favor of the 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be in favor of that if it's amended into Resolution 10.
Then you need to second President Pro Tem's motion to add that.
Then I will second that.
Are we clear?
But now I have a subsequent question.
Well,
Well, just a minute.
right
Okay.
before the council now is the question about amending the existing motion, resolution number 10, to add language which reads, as a third paragraph, whereas the council disagrees with the recommendation of the Ethics Commission that Deanna Beauclair, Robert Roner, and Deborah Hinchy repay only a portion of the Kentucky Derby trip cost per person. And then it adds as a conclusion, be it therefore further resolved by the Council of the City of Norwich that the Council of the City of Norwich go on record as recommending that each individual against whom an ethical violation is found repay the full cost per person for the Kentucky Derby for himself or herself and any of their respective spouses or invited guests.
So now we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion about this?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
We as a council, do we have the authority to intervene into the Public Utilities Board Commission when they have not made a decision as to how they're going to perform their action?
I think this is an expression of an opinion of the council, is what's before you.
Okay.
And it is what it is. It's an expression of the council's opinion one way or another.
But it holds
So-
no.
But it's not,
It's not binding?
well, I mean, it's an expression of opinion. It's,
Is there anyone else who has something to say on this matter? All right, yes.
So again, and with no disrespect to the mayor, can you actually vote on this?
What's your opinion?
I think I'd recuse myself if I were you.
All right, Corporation Counsel has asked me to recuse myself. I'll leave and you all can figure it out.
Just
Well,
a point
I
of...
think it
I know.
defaults to you as pro tem
I-
on the meeting.
That was my question. I assumed that. Is there further statements or any concerns to be expressed on the resolution that's before us? The amendment, that is. Yes.
I firmly believe that this has to go to the Norwich Public Utility and let them make their decision, and if they want to have it sent back to us at the council level for further interpretation, then they may do that, but I do not feel as if we should intervene at this time.
Any other comments?
I'm just
Alderman
confused by
Nash.
Alderman Braddock's remarks. This isn't going to the NPU anyway. This is a recommendation that was given to us by the Ethics Board, and we're just looking at what we've decided to change the Ethics Board's, not finding, but sort of punishment administered or suggested, since we really don't have the authority to punish. But we're just saying that we thank the Ethics Board for their time and efforts in this, but we just felt the punishment didn't fit the crime. And so, but this is not going back to NPU to decide, oh, okay, this is a good idea or not. It's got nothing to do with them at this point. This is basically the recommendations from the Ethics Board. And that's my understanding. So if I'm wrong, somebody correct me. But this has nothing to do with NPU at this point. They're not going to go back to commissioners and review this. This is what the ethics sent to us. We said, okay, thank you, but that's not enough, and this is our amendment to that. Am I understanding it correctly?
Yes, you are. And in fact, those issues that we felt belonged in front of NPU, we sent at our previous meeting because they clearly had cognizance over those that we did not. This issue, NPU has no cognizance over whatsoever, other than the fact that there's a relationship because two of the commissioners are named.
Gotcha, okay.
That is the only
I
relationship.
just want to make sure I was right.
Any other questions, discussions, or statements? For the record, this amendment adds language which refers to the level of restitution. I would rather use the word restitution and not punishment, because I think that's what the ratepayers are looking for, restitution. Any other statements or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment? Four opposed. Motion carries 4-2. But before us now is the resolution as amended, which is the creating of the file, because as the city clerk office informed us, they don't have files for this said purpose, and that which was amended. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion fails 3-3.
I hereby move pursuant to...
Hold on.
Let's wait for the mayor to come back.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ask the mayor to come back. I hereby move pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1-200 that the members of the Norwich City Council go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the performance and evaluation of City Manager John Salamone, who does not require that these discussions be held at an open meeting. Comptroller Josh Pothier and Director of Human Resources Bridget Marks shall be asked to attend all or portions of this executive session at the request of the City Council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Alderman Braddock, those in favor?
Aye.
And that's unanimous. Could I please have a motion and a second to come back in?
So moved.
Alderman Braddock and Alderman Martin. Those in favor? Let the record
Aye.
show no votes were taken.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second, please, Alderman Filbert. Oh, did you have a question?
Yes, I would like to reopen, I would like to raise the issue of reconsideration of my vote on Resolution 10. I'm still totally confused.
Change that.
Well, you can make a motion to reconsider, or you can change your vote. I mean, it isn't so much reconsider. If you want to change your vote, you can do that up till the end of the meeting.
Then I would like to change my vote.
We're adjourned.
No, we're not.
We haven't adjourned yet. All right, you voted...
Well, I'll have to leave again.
Yep, okay.
Let me, if I may, so that it's clear in my mind. I am in favor of the 100% restitution.
Well, that's what the amended motion did.
And I voted against it.
No, you voted in favor of the amendment, and then you voted against the resolution as amended.
Can we just talk like normal people?
Unfortunately, that's
Then I'm asking you as Corporation Counsel to advise me what I need to do to change my vote to support the 100% reimbursement.
Well, I think you just would indicate that you wish. The problem is the city clerk has left, and we're not televised right now, because I don't know how to turn on the television.
That sounds like an internal problem.
If you change your vote, you're entitled to, up to the end of the meeting, to change your vote on any particular resolution you have. But once the meeting is adjourned, you could bring it back at the next meeting for reconsideration, but you know, it would be to the end of the next meeting, and after that you wouldn't be able to, and that's because of the change that the council recently made. So you have a right tonight to change your vote. Or it would have to be brought back, and you would be on the prevailing side because it didn't pass, so you could move to reconsider at the next meeting if you choose to do so. Either one.
We're not on television anymore, and I don't have any... I find it very difficult to get information to help me make informed decisions. It's not my fault that the city clerk is no longer here and that the city council meeting is still in session. I don't know who makes a decision to release the city clerk and turn off the television. That's something you can decide amongst yourselves. But I want to change my vote.
Well, you can.
Okay, well, so I...
President Pro Tem is running the meeting, so.
President Pro Tem, may I say something?
Go ahead.
I think this would be a lot easier if we had the information in front of us before, like an agenda setting, so we could analyze it, ask questions. That's the proper thing to be doing. But getting these things at the last minute on Friday afternoon is not cool.
And I will agree 100% on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes?
To Joanne's question, we could bring this back at another meeting,
The next meeting.
at the next meeting. Just putting that out there.
The next meeting will be the presentation of the budget, correct?
The April,
Yes.
I don't have the date
It's
in
the
front of
budget.
me.
Fool's Day.
I will agree to, if I may,
You have the floor.
I will agree to that with the clear understanding that if I don't get my name in time for agenda setting, that I have someone's word, I don't care whose word, someone's word on this council that they will bring up that resolution. I know that's not how it works. I just have to bring it back, right?
Well,
You can do it right now by changing the
actually,
vote. It's
to
done.
reconsider, any one of the three people who are on the prevailing side.
Well, that's what I want to do. I want to reconsider my vote now and vote.
Well, you can change your vote, and I guess that's what I'm saying.
You just-
Technically, tonight, if you decide to change your vote, you may. You can say, I voted against it, now I'm going to vote in favor, of it, and that's fine.
Okay, we-
Reconsider means the collective group would
Yeah.
take it up again.
Question. If she changes her vote tonight, it will be whose responsibility to notify the city clerk tomorrow that a vote was changed?
I can certainly notify her, or
So you would notify on her behalf?
I can notify the clerk tomorrow that she changed her vote.
And so the matter would then be settled?
Well,
There's no issue of reconsideration if she changes her vote tonight.
it will pass 4-2.
It'll pass 4-2, it's done, and the 100% is in effect on the recommendation.
No, it's not in effect.
No, it's a
Recommendation of the
the
council.
recommendation, yes, that's what I'm referring to. Yes.
I don't know the correct words, but I want to change my vote to indicate that I support 100% reimbursement.
Then the Corporation Council has indicated he will notify the clerk that your vote was changed.
You're changing your vote from no to yes on resolution number 10 as amended.
Yes. I'm going to,
Okay,
Yes.
you're all set.
Point of order. Mayor, City Pro Tem, if I'm mistaken, I don't, maybe I am, but I believed Alderwoman Philbrick did vote in the affirmative for the 100% restitution. She did not vote in affirmative on the resolution as a whole. That's where the confusion is. She voted, I remember her vote on the restitution portion. She did vote in the affirmative. However, when we voted on the resolution as a whole, she did not cast a vote or an affirmative vote. So that's my confusion now. Is she going, I'm going to ask you, are you going to vote in favor of the entire resolution?
She just did, Bill.
no.
See, that's what I'm
Put words
saying.
in my
This is
mouth.
why I'm confused here, because she's not voting in affirmative on the whole resolution. She's just voting on the.
The sequence was that you started with a resolution 10, was provided for the creation of a file in the clerk's office. Yes. There's a motion and second on that. Then eventually a motion to amend it was made, which Ms. Philbrick seconded. After debate, that was approved. The amendment was approved by a 4-2 vote. So the language of Resolution 10, as you then voted on it, was the language that included the creation of a file and a recommendation that the repayment be 100%, not as it had been set up. And that vote ended up in a 3-3 vote, meaning it failed. That was the sequencing.
So you can't extrapolate one from the other. I can't vote in favor of the 100% and vote against the file.
Correct.
Well, You'd have to, I mean, you could move to split the question. Anyone on the council can ask to split the question. It is two parts. One is the creation of a file. One is the recommendation of 100%. The problem is it's late to do that procedurally because you've already voted and the resolution, if you change your vote from no to yes, the resolution as amended, the creation of a file and the recommendation of 100% payback will pass.
I'm going to move the question.
Well, as an alternative, if it was reconsidered at the next meeting, you can then move to split the question. So that's a possible procedure to follow if that's your intention.
I know I'm supposed to be running the meeting at this point in time, but I feel the need to discuss the resolution. Oh, she's back.
Sorry. If I may, and I know the people in the audience are getting exasperated, but you elected me to do the right thing. And quite frankly, right now, I'm so confused that I don't know what the hell we're voting on here.
Excuse me, we do not take comment from the audience.
We weren't allowed to talk about it, and I'm sorry.
That's enough. Please.
So this will be my final statement. I am in favor of the 100%. I am not in favor of the file. So if I can't do it either way, I will change my vote and I will abstain based upon the fact that I don't have sufficient information to make a decision.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
There's a,
Motion to adjourn is always in order.
I know it is, but you want to do that to your member?
Well, you know what, this is what happens when things are not discussed by everyone and everybody doesn't get the same information. I'm totally confused.
Well, this is why we can bring it back, Joanne. This is the opportunity to bring it back.
Next time.
Yes.
You can come back to the next meeting, and then you'll have time to study it.
And then the citizens will have time to comment on it, we'll have time to digest it, and we can redo it.
Just like a regular resolution.
So what is your pleasure, please?
Bring it back at the next meeting.
Then for the record, you're not changing your vote tonight.
I don't know what I'm doing. So because everybody else wants to move on, I will acquiesce to my fellow members and agree that the easiest solution is to bring it back next time. So no, I will not change my vote. I will bring it back next time, and we'll start this fiasco all over again.
To assist you in your wish, you're therefore asking the city clerk to make note that it's your intention to move to reconsider your vote, so that would be on agenda setting the next.
Would reconsider the motion.
Yeah, but you would want it on the agenda, would you not?
It would be on, well, I think we did that the last time we made a formal resolution to reconsider the resolution that was brought tonight, and then vote on that at that time.
Just so that it's not lost between now and agenda setting, so that her wish is carried.
I think
Alderman Nash, second. Alderman Braddock? Aye. All those in favor?
Aye.